Hi, welcome back to the workshop for what is always an exciting day, and that's new build day from the Shed of Dreams. Now recently I've been building a lot of multi-laminate through neck guitars, hollow bodies, really complicated builds that have taken both quite a long time to do and have been quite challenging. And I kind of feel to a certain extent that while that does make for good viewing, it does sort of get away from the ethos of this place, which is to do things in such a way that other people can aspire to it. And with that in mind, I've decided to embark on a build that's a lot simpler than those builds have been. However, it's not going to be as simple as the go-to for any first-time guitar builder, which would be something like a Telecaster. It's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. And in particular, there's one guitar that I've always wanted to own, and since I've been making guitars, really wanted to build. And that's a double cutaway TV yellow Les Paul Jr. as used by Johnny Thunders. For me, it's just an absolute icon. So let's get down onto the bench and have a look at what we're going to be using on this build. Now, a real Les Paul Jr. would of course be made of mahogany. Mahogany isn't really that easy to get hold of in the UK, and when you can get it, it's expensive. However, there is plentiful sapele available, and I've used this on numerous builds and it always gives a really nice resonant guitar, so I'm happy to use this. When I saw this piece of wood in the rack in the wood yard, I immediately knew that I had to make a Les Paul Jr. out of it. I really just love the figure in this, and I think if we can get this to match up when we glue the two bits of it together that we'll need to make the body blank, I think it's going to look absolutely lovely. The TV yellow isn't a solid colour, it is somewhat see-through, so you'll still be able to see this beautiful figure through that, which is brilliant. Next, I've also got a great big lump of sapele for the neck. This is actually the remainder of the wood that I made the neck on my 335 out of. So that's good, and there is plenty there to get the neck out of. It's a pity it's not a little bit longer, and we could potentially have got two, but there you go. And the other bit of wood I've actually got a piece of ebony for the fingerboard. I think that will be absolutely lovely. Now, normally when I embark on a build on this channel, the first thing I do is make a set of templates. So I do a load of tracing out off a plan, and I cut it out and I stick it to MDF and I cut all that out, and it kind of takes an episode just to get through all of that. However, this isn't my first day at this particular rodeo, so I already have a full set of templates. I used these a few years ago to build my first Les Paul Jr., which is a cherry red one, which I'm very pleased with. I started it in kind of late 2019, and it got finished off in lockdown just before I started my YouTube channel. In fact, my first ever YouTube video was me in the shed playing that Les Paul Jr. And it was the kind of unexpected response from that that got me interested in doing a YouTube channel in the first place. That video's not up anymore. I'm not easily embarrassed, but that one manages to do it, so we won't talk about that any longer. Okay, so back on task. Les Paul Jr., very simple. One P90, dog ear P90. One tone, one volume, no switching. Wraparound tailpiece. This one is going to have a tortoiseshell-esque pickguard. Very straightforward. The only difficult bit on these is getting the neck pocket right and getting the angle of the neck, etc. sorted out. Other than that, it is quite a straightforward build. So I don't anticipate this is going to take a huge amount of time, but I think it will be a fun little build. So first things first, we're going to need a body blank. And making this body blank is really very straightforward. All we need is two bits of this timber big enough to form the halves of the body. We need to make sure that they've got nice straight square edges planed onto them where they're going to join, and literally just glue them together. And we can use our template to mark this out. I've had a look at this timber, and I think the piece at this end is going to give us some nice figure, and also the piece kind of adjacent to it. But I'm going to leave a little bit extra on this, probably a good 2 inches, just so that I can kind of shuffle it up and down a little bit and get the nicest kind of join down the centre of the blank. I'm going to check, I might be able to get that half into my bandsaw and trim that one off. I'm not sure, but I definitely won't the other one. So I'm going to have to cut that down with a handsaw, but I'll just check first that I can get this into the bandsaw. Nice idea, absolutely no chance. So, time to break out a handsaw, do it the old-fashioned way. Now obviously I don't have to be too precious about cutting this, we've left plenty of spare material, so I just need to basically break this down into usable chunks. And to do that, I'm just going to use a Japanese pull saw. Okay, so there's the first bit cut. Took a little bit of time, but not too bad really, probably about 5 minutes. So just get the other cut done and we can then look at getting these joined into the body blank. You might be thinking, why am I not using a power saw on this? I have got a chop saw in the other shed, but literally it's going to take me half an hour to dig it out. Much quicker just to do this by hand. Okay, so there's my 2 bits of wood cut. And now what I want to do is just kind of have a look at them and see where my best match is really. See where I can put these together. And I mean, we're not ever going to make it look like it's come from one piece of timber. But sometimes they look more like they did than they don't. And I'm kind of thinking that looks okay. Looks not too bad. That's not so good. Don't like that. So I actually think that's the way I'm going to go, because while I think you can always tell that that's a joint there, we could have that as the back and that would look okay. Or maybe we'd have that as the back. But either way, I think we've got 2 quite decent looking joints there. And it's worth remembering that this will be kind of TV yellow. So whilst you will still see the grain, you won't see a huge amount of it. And as it happens, this joint is looking pretty good without doing too much to it. So I'll check this out with a square and some straight edges just to see where we are, and then ultimately I'll probably need to get it up to the light just to check that it's a good joint. If not, we just need to kind of do a little bit of work on it with a plane. Okay, so I've had to touch these up a little bit. They weren't quite where I needed them to be. It has been said to me on a number of occasions that this is the one bit that people struggle with. And when you first start to kind of do this jointing work, it can be quite a challenge. And it's the kind of thing that does come much easier with a bit of practice. However, you do need kind of some of the right kit, in my opinion anyway. I've seen this done with a really good quality table saw. If you've got a good quality saw with a good fence, you can rip these to width and they will joint very, very nicely. I haven't. My table saw is rubbish, so I have to use this method. And all I use is, it's not even that good a quality. It's a fairly cheap number 6 plane. Number 7 will work as well, but you don't need something that's that long just to do these small pieces. Number 6, in my opinion, is perfect. And it's just a matter of playing a nice straight edge on there and just checking it with a square to make sure that you got the right angle. And then when you've done that to both your pieces of wood, you will get something that fits together really nice and tight. And this one is all right, actually. I'm quite happy with this. And you'll know when you've done it right, because if you put a straight edge on, it should be kind of very flat. Now, there's a tiny little dip in the middle of this. It's probably about 1 mil or so. That's not terrible. This material is the correct thickness, but there is a little bit of excess on there, so that can be sanded absolutely flat. But also, it's worth bearing in mind that we're going to be cutting away quite a lot of material on the outside, so that will kind of lessen any error that there is there. So with that done, there's nothing for it really to just find my kind of optimal position, which I think is there. I think that's going to work wonderfully. So we will mark that. Get some glue out, get some clamps out, and get this joined together. Okay, so there it is, all glued up. As you can see, I've used a 5 clamp technique on this, so I tend to use on these glue ups. So there's 2 sash clamps at the bottom and then 1 at the top, which kind of evens out the pressure so you're not getting it cupping one way or the other. And then 2 G-clamps with some stout timber blocks that are covered in masking tape so they won't stick at either end, just to make sure that the 2 pieces kind of remain absolutely square and parallel, and I can feel there's no step at all there, so that should work out absolutely fine. So that's the first step in the process done. The next step will be to wait for this to dry, get the template on it, get it marked out, and get this body cut out and get the routing, etc. done. However, I'm going to leave that till the next episode. I think we've done enough on this one. I'll be back in a few days' time when we start to do all of that. As always, smash that like button if you've enjoyed this, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you in a few days' time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.